you got to earn trust from your players first, right? You build that relationship, let them understand like where you're coming from and who you are as a person. So then when you do have to get on them a little bit, they understand, they respect it. It's all about respect, man. You got to gain the respect first. They know you truly care. It'll be easy to tell them what you want them to do because they respect you and they know you care. It's a lot easier when you have good young men who care and are good people. I still think it's all about that. Obviously, you want to recruit the good player, but you also want them to be a good person.
Welcome to Athlete Country Club, the podcast built for parents, athletes, and competitors chasing the next level. I'm your host, Marcus McMarion, former Division I quarterback, now founder of Athlete Country Club. I started this show because, like many of you, I had to learn the recruiting process the hard way, traveling up and down the state, spending thousands trying to figure out what actually works. Each week, we break it down through two powerful segments. First, Coach Talk. This is where we sit down with college coaches, director of player personnel, recruiters to uncover exactly what they look for when offering scholarships. No fluff, just the truth from people making the decisions. Second, Athlete CEO. Here we go beyond the field, into habits, training, and mindset that build elite performance and long-term success. You'll hear from strength coaches, nutritionists, sports psychologists, and former athletes who've turned their grind into greatness in business, leadership, and life. Because being an athlete isn't just about playing the game, it's about mastering it and building your legacy beyond it. So whether you're a parent trying to navigate recruiting or an athlete ready to level up, you're in the right place. Welcome to Athlete Country Club, where we turn potential into performance and performance into purpose. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Athlete Country Club. I'm your host, Marcus McMarion. Today's guest is someone who's been in the trenches of college football for over 2 decades, 26 seasons to be exact, from Oregon State, Fresno State, New Mexico, Houston, Arizona State, and even some time in the league in the NFL. He's seen the game from every angle. Recruiting rooms, locker rooms, meeting rooms, and game day pressure. But what makes him different, he's one of the most relatable coaches you'll ever be around. The type of coach where you want to be invited over his house for the barbecue because, he knows how to separate work from life. But when it's time to work, it's definitely time to work, and he's going to call you out on that. He's coached NFL backs, developed special teams units, and comes from a coaching bloodline, his uncle being the legendary coach Dennis Erickson, who he also worked with under the San Francisco 49ers. Today we're diving into just the reality of college football and kind of the NIL era, what's actually happening inside locker rooms versus what the media is talking about and what it truly takes to go from high school to college to the league. Coach Christian, welcome to Athlete Country Club podcast, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Good to see you, Marcus. It's been a minute, bro. Really happy to see you, man.
Yeah, no, it's always good to see you, Coach. And I know you've coached at multiple levels, and that's one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on. Just the experience from the college and NFL. But when you zoom out, what do you feel like? What's the game taught you about people more than just football?
Oh, man, everything about life in general and work ethic and relationships and communication. A game of football, you have to deal with all that stuff, and it helps you prepare, young men for life in general, and just how to deal with the world today. I think it's a big plus for guys to be involved in college football, high school football, and really helps you with today's society, basically.
Yeah, no doubt. And I kind of talked about it a little bit briefly in the intro. You come from kind of that coaching family, and your uncle is Dennis Erickson, is a legend in the game. But what's like one lesson he passed on to you that still shows up in how you coach today?
He was always known as a player coach, and just the way he treated his players. He treated them like family. A lot of people, every college team was going to say family, and they break the huddle. But the reality of, are you really family? Are you guys do you trust each other? He was about business, but he cared more about his players than he actually did himself in his career. And that's kind of how I've always been, as far as having love for my players and being a player's coach. And to me, it's still more about them than it is my career and stuff like that. And I think that's what true family is. And I think that's why he was successful, and I've been able to stay in the game as long as I have. And I think that's the number one thing I learned from him, just being a genuine person and really truly caring about his players.
Right. Yeah. And I kind of talked about it again in the intro, but you're known as a coach who can connect with players, but also hold them accountable. And I know that through obviously your time at Fresno State as a running back coach, and I was there with Coach DeBoer and Grubb, and all those guys were there. But like, where does that balance come from between like being relatable but also demanding out of your players?
It's not an easy balance, but if you're just genuine, right? You got to earn trust from your players first, right? The first thing you do when you meet a player is you start yelling at them and trying to tell I'm boss. It's more about the relationship. You build that relationship. You also show each other, let them understand like where you're coming from and who you are as a person, right? So then when you do have to, get on them a little bit, they understand, they respect it. It's all about respect, man. You got to gain the respect first. And then most of the players are willing to do what they know you truly care. Okay. It'll be easy to tell them what you want them to do because they respect you and they know you care. If you don't have that respect and they think you truly don't care, then it's going to be hard to get them to do what you want them to do.
No doubt. And then even just like me kind of flipping that conversation a little bit from the player's perspective, like if I'm an incoming freshman, like how do I earn the respect of my coaching staff? Like what are some small things off the field that I could do to earn the respect of Coach Christian?
Okay, going back to when I mean respect, it's not me respecting them, it's them respecting me, first of all. But what you're saying is, how can they respect their coach or get your respect is just being a accountable person, care, hard worker, genuine person, just things of that nature, unselfish. If you got a young freshman that comes in, he's selfish, he doesn't care about other people and stuff like that, that's going to be hard for me to relate to him and respect him. Not that I won't work with them, but it's a lot easier when you have good young men who care and are good people. I still think it's all about that. Obviously good athletes, obviously want to recruit a good person and good player, but you also want them to be a good person, a genuine person and unselfish person.
Yeah, no, and I was going to talk about that a little bit later, but I kind of want to just jump into it now to where I think obviously NIL is kind of the big buzzword and everyone talks about it right now. But I mean, from your perspective, I mean, like inside the locker rooms, I mean, what's the biggest difference just like pre NIL to kind of like post NIL culture?
You know what? I do think that, I think now is between players and teammates, it's hard to have a solid team and everyone respect each other and have respect for each other. When some of them are getting paid a lot of money and some are not, and money is involved in this stuff like that, I think that it can affect the locker room. I've noticed that a couple, just different. Oh, this kid's getting this and this guy's not, but he's not producing, or this guy's producing, but not making money. I mean, anytime you involve money in it, I think it's hard. All right. To really have a team in a family environment when money is involved. That's just my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that people don't get it done. Okay. But with some of the smaller schools that don't have the same, money, they only can pay a certain amount of people money, right? So you got a team with 25% of the team who's getting some money, and this whole 75% is not. That's a little bit harder, right? It's going to be harder, and there's jealousies and gets involved, and I've seen it happen, but it's just part of what it is now to this day. I mean, that's what it is. You got to adapt and figure that out and try to figure out how to still have a family environment in this day and age, because it's still about family, and the teams that care about each other and play for each other, they're still going to be the better teams.
Yeah, no, and I know that was a difficult thing to kind of balance when I've been running the collective for the last 2.5 years at Fresno State, but when Coach Tedford, when it initially jumped off to where it's like, man, we really want this transfer, but he was always concerned with kind of the culture and the environment in the locker room. It's like, well, what's it going to say if I go pay this transfer kid all this money? He's making more than the kid that was producing last year. So he was always kind of hyper fixated and aware of what that was going to do to the culture and the environment of the locker room. And I feel like that's interesting because there's a lot of media narratives around NIL, like the money, the transfer, chaos, but like what conversations are actually happening inside like team meetings that the public never really hears?
As far as the NLI, is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? I mean, to
Yeah.
be honest with you, the last couple of places I've been, there wasn't a lot of. I felt like the assistant coaches weren't really involved in the NLI as much as uh, it was more the head coach and maybe the coordinators. But there wasn't a lot of conversations about money in the team setting. Like we didn't, it wasn't talked about. Which is kind of screwed up because now it's getting talked about in the locker room, but not handled by the staffs. It's just because it's not in place to talk about it. And some people don't know the rules and who's supposed to talk about it, who's supposed to be involved. Like it's like there'd be times where like, well, how come we're paying? I wouldn't even know who was getting paid what and what was going on. Like it was kind of a big secret. So I don't know how you handle that. And at least where I was in the last couple of years, it wasn't talked about. And the communication on that with the assistant coaches and the head coach and the team wasn't a lot.
Yeah, no, and I feel like that's important just to kind of get out there for people to kind of understand and listen to. Because even now, I'm not running the collective anymore, so I could kind of openly talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff. But a lot of those player contracts, we actually have language in there saying that they're not allowed to talk about it with other people, with their teammates, with their like with people, because it makes it all muddy. Like the more people who know, it's like you said, you start getting animosity between teammates. Like, well, why is he making this and I'm making this, and it just muddies the water. And again, depending on the level of school you're at, like you talked about, not every school is using the full $20.5 million revenue share and then using a collective as a cherry on top and going past the 20 million, so it's just such a different world, and it's changed a lot. And I think I was so excited to have you on because with your 26 years of being in, I mean, you've seen so much change over that, and you've kind of coached long enough to see the evolution. And I mean, in your opinion, I mean, like how many years away are we from college football probably becoming like a true minor league system?
I mean, I feel like it's already, I think it's there. I really do. I really think it's there, man. And the change happened quick. Like we went from not being able to pay players to playing players. What was it? The last 3 years? I couldn't even tell you, right? I was always involved in what was going on, but it happened fast. And you always think, oh, it's not going to really change much. It's still, but it really shows now with what's going on with the money and the players and the whole nine. So, I think it's already there, to be honest with you, unless they change the way they're doing it. And, that's where we're at. I'm not saying it's not college football because I love college football. It's still a good product. You still have great games and all that, but it has definitely changed, and it's here right now as far as, it being almost like a minor league system. And not, well, really not even a minor league and a farm system, because now you got the teams that are the big dogs. Those are the minor leaguers, right? And then you got the smaller teams. Those are more like the farm system. So it's definitely changed. The transfer portal, that's crazy. I mean, that whole thing is crazy. The coaches aren't getting time anymore. It's like you got to, when the transfer portal changes is during bowl games, or bowl games aren't as good because people are tapping out. That whole thing is that's wild. That's real wild. They got to change it. They need to make some changes as far as like when the portal can happen, transfers, the whole nine, and get that squared away and to where it works out with the bowl games or the system that we have in place.
Yeah, I feel like every conversation I've always had with like young high school athletes or parents, I've always kind of let them know like how competitive it is just to play at that level. I mean, I've always shared with them that, hey, only 7% of athletes even play in college. I mean, talking JUCO, D1, 2, 3, like, so if you play at any level, you're top 7 percentile already, to where then numbers get even smaller. You're talking Division One. I mean, since you've been in the game now, how much does that affect high school athletes now? Like, how much more competitive do you have to be now that you're throwing in transfer portal? Because now it's like, hey, why am I going to bank on a freshman who I don't even know if he could handle the pressure of a college schedule when I could just go get a junior kid who's proven and he could fix my problems right now? So kind of talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, we used to always sign, anywhere from 25 to, 30 kids in a high school class, and they'd be almost all high school kids, maybe a couple JCs. And now we're getting to where people only signing 10, 11 high school kids because of the portal, like you're saying. Coaches want guys that can come in and start and play. Coaches are held at a high standard of winning, and they want guys that can come in and win right now. The whole day and age of, building a program and molding players and doing all that, you don't really have that time like you used to, where you can get a young freshman and develop them and do all that stuff. Because you got to win now in this day and age. And coaches are getting a year or two, and if it doesn't happen, they're getting let go in 2 years. That's kind of hard to develop, so you got to gamble and hope you're getting the right guys in the transfer portal. And just last year, dealing with some of the guys that we got in the transfer portal, and we're not always getting the right guy either on that. That's a crapshoot too, to be honest with you. So it's kind of one of them deals. I mean, but it definitely affects the high school kids, because not as many of them are getting opportunities, like you said. The percentage even went down even further, right? But it's kind of, like I said, it's part of what's going on. So you just got to adapt, and you got to figure it out quick. And it's JCs are getting stronger now, because a lot of kids, the high school kids, aren't getting those opportunities. They're going to JCs. And then for me, I was always saying, like, when maybe we should get into the JC world a little bit more. Some people are scared of the JC world, but there's a lot better players in JCs than there were guys with longer, more years, because they're there in their qualifier. So they, get 4 for 3 instead of 2 for 2, like it used to be. And they're not as bad as far as the money. They don't, they're not asking for all the money like some of the transfers are. So, I mean, everyone has to adapt to what's going on and figure out what's right for their program and that. But it's definitely changed for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like I've always been high on letting parents know and athletes that it's like, hey, some of the best players I've ever played with in college were JUCO product guys. It's like honestly, they just come with a little different swagger mentality, and they have to bet on themselves, and they have a chip on their shoulder. And like you could tell, I mean, just when we're working out, it's like kind of the whole motto of, you get some guys who are going through the motions and they just show up to work out. And then you get other guys who are the captains, the leaders, the guys that are actually making or showing to like outwork. Like, I'm not here to just lift with Coach Christian. Like, I'm going to push the tempo so much that Coach Christian feels uncomfortable lifting with me, because I'm like, dang, why is this dude going so hard? So it's like being able to have those kind of mentalities. And I think that's why, really, for me, why Athlete Country Club was built. I mean, just to kind of help drown out some of the noise. And you need to go to this showcase or this camp or this combine or this ranking, blah, 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 blah. It's like, let's just simplify it. I mean, like, in your opinion, like, how does a player actually get recruited in 2026?
Whew, that's a real good question. I mean, I think anytime you can get yourself out there, the showcases, and I know they're kind of out of control because there's so many of them, but there are some that you need to go and show. I would say if I'm a high school player and I want to go to one of those showcases or something to that nature, it would have to be one where the college coaches are allowed to be at, more like a camp, or, some of the showcases where the college coaches can't be at. Some programs look at those videos, but they're not there seeing them in person. And me as a recruiter, I was always a guy, like, I would want to see a guy in person, because there's some things that watching a video or something that can't show as opposed to seeing a guy in person. So anything where a college coach would be at, that would be something that I would say is beneficial to a guy trying to get recruited, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And that's always been my general rule of thumb that I tell parents. It's like, hey, if you don't know anything, or if you don't have a family member or someone guiding you and telling you what camps to go to, just go to a camp where a college coach is actually there, and you're probably going to be in a generally a pretty good camp where you could actually get offered. And I've always said, it's like, if you ball out at a camp and you're absolutely the best one who's there, there should be someone there with the ability to say, I want to offer this kid a scholarship, or at least you're on our recruiting board. Let's kind of start that process and see what it looks like.
Well, see, a lot of things too, like, and nothing against 7-on-7s or things like that, but college coaches can't go to any stuff like that, right? It still goes back to, if I'm a high school, being involved with my team, right? My high school team, where that's where college coaches can go to if it's a showcase where it's a bunch of high school teams and the coaches are there involved, their high school coaches are involved. I think those are more beneficial than an actual, maybe a showcase where there's 300 kids, but there are no college coaches there. I mean, some of those are beneficial, not to say, or 7-on-7 tournament where there's actual college coaches watching. That's different, as opposed to something that's not hooked up with the actual high school team, where the college coaches can go and watch it. That's where you want to go. That's what you want to do.